Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello and welcome to Authors on Mission, the show where we dive deep into the hearts and minds of amazing books. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, and today we're in for a soul-stirring conversation about reinventation, resilience, and the radical power of joy. I mean, have you ever noticed how the most profound wisdom often comes from those who've lived both sides of the story? Our guest has owned a gym where she's helped thousands achieve their goals, only to find herself struggling herself. So this journey of falling down and rising again with a completely new perspective led to the incredible book that we're going to discuss today. With all of that in mind, I am thrilled to welcome Kim Mosiman, the author of Reflections of Joy, Learning to Love the Women You See While Becoming the One You're Meant to Be. Welcome to our show, Kim. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving in about this. Your story, of course, is inspiring. You've already helped so many people, and I think this podcast is going to be another incredible way to help even more listeners today. So I always like to start off by talking a little bit more about yourself and, what led to writing the book. I gave a little bit of an overview here, but perhaps you could provide a little bit more details about what exactly happened in these struggling times, and was there a specific moment that led you to deciding to start typing on that Word document?
Well, life led me to typing on that Word document. So, when I was younger, everything was easy and fine. And I was a swimmer and I was a good student. And so I didn't ever really experience any blips. I became a mother young, and my body didn't necessarily, my body always looked good. I always felt good about myself when I was younger because I exercised and I ate good foods. But then I had kiddos and things just didn't rebound the same way. And I found myself frustrated in my 30s and 40s, and then started working out at a gym. And I discovered a love of fitness. So I got bit by the fitness bug, if you will. And all along I was journaling. I journaled about my food. I journaled about life. I journaled about the way I felt. And I fell so in love with the fitness bug. I opened a gym, as you talked about earlier, and, received several certifications and became a personal trainer and a nutritionist and all the things so I could help people. And all along I kept thinking I should write a book. I should write a book. Not everyone can come to my gym. They should learn about my gym. And so I kept great notes and all along. And then I closed the gym, and I felt this terrible sense of purposelessness, I guess. My kids were grown and gone. My husband was working. I didn't have people at the gym, no one to take care of. And so all of a sudden, here I am with no purpose. And I gained weight, and I felt bad about myself, and I became my own worst client. And through it all, I have journals and all these feelings and all of this stuff. And as I started to turn myself around, I realized that I really still could write a book. Even though I didn't have the gym, even though I didn't have the thing going on that I did before, I was living the experience myself. And so I took all of those stories, all of those experiences and my journals and turned it into Reflections of Joy.
Well, first off, I commend you for that whole process. It seems that even though, you had your struggles and things didn't quite work out at some points, you found a way to make it work with time and figuring out what was right for you in that moment, right? Even though, the gym wasn't a thing at one point, you turned to journaling and you found some amazing purpose out of these notes and turned it into a book that's helping so many others still to this day. So, really great that the resilience factor, I guess, is really strong with you. And I even mentioned that earlier on in the show.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's incredible. And obviously, your book is something that really shows that to everybody, too. One thing that I noticed when I was looking through all of your materials and reading through things is that this resilience has changed you a little bit. You went from being a people pleasing, change noticing, ever complimenting person, your words, quote,
Hmm.
but then you kind of made your passion go to purpose to share how you can rediscover wellness in your own terms. Can you talk a little bit about this transformation and what you learned from it?
I think so many of us, particularly women, spend our lives trying to make life good for other people. And yes, people pleasing, people who lift others up, right? And I like being that person, but that person didn't always accommodate me in my own struggles. And so I don't know if deep down I've completely changed. I still like to be that person for others. But what I have learned is that if I don't take care of myself and if I'm not good to myself physically, mentally, spiritually, all the things, then I'm really not doing good for others because it's not sustainable. I have to be whole and good in my own skin before I can take care of you. And yeah, I think that's the thing that has stuck with me the most through all of this.
Yeah, definitely. You have to work on yourself before you work on others. Just that saying, you can't pour from an empty bucket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you need to figure out what works for you. I mean, maybe it's owning a gym, maybe it's helping others, maybe it's getting into fitness, but I can see how you have to try a couple of things out and see what clicks the most. And clearly, this is something that you've been doing for many years and figured out, the right path for yourself. And one other thing I noticed is, you're a little bit spiritual, or at least what I gathered from looking at your
Mm-hmm.
materials. You prayed to feel good. You're praying to do better. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit how spirituality informed your approach and how that led you to self-acceptance.
It's very important to me. I think it's always been important, but as a business owner, I think many of us who are in the customer service arena try to be very neutral. A lot of us don't talk about what fills our cup. And so my relationship with God has always been important, but I haven't always put it in the number one category. I took care of other people, and then I might have taken care of myself, and then I might have taken care of my relationship with God. What I've discovered is in acknowledging that I always meet the standards with at least one universal being, right? I mean, God always loves me. I believe God always loves me and God always approves. And that was life-changing for me. Because if I'm always worthy and I'm always beautiful and I'm always good and strong, then everything else kind of takes a back seat. I can move forward with a positive frame of mind instead of just dreading what I have to do. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It absolutely does. I see exactly
yeah.
where you're coming from.
It's made all the difference. And I don't believe that I can pray myself skinny, or that that through worship I can heal everything. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is knowing that I was created perfectly, and to be who I am has made all the difference for me in pursuing a healthy, responsible lifestyle and way of being.
Yeah, and I can see exactly where you're coming from with that. You asked, like, does that make sense? And I think definitely, in order to help others, you have to have a good sense of self. And the only way to do that is to believe innately that almost it is what it is, but in a good way. It's what you were meant to be, what you were meant to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So clearly, it's something that's learned, but also believed as well.
Yes.
And I think this must go into what you talk about in the book regarding goals versus size goals. You want to have a goal to, lose some weight, for example, or you can have a goal to feel better. I'm wondering if you want to shine a little bit of light on that, and how, give maybe some tips about how we can identify our own authentic feel goals.
Mm-hmm. I think so many of us especially in the United States, and I'm sure it exists everywhere, but we look at others and, oh, it might seem so easy, or, oh, they never gain weight, or just all the things. And so many of the women who came to work out in my gym had a size goal or a number goal. They wanted to step on the scale and they wanted to see that certain number, and that verified how they should feel about themselves. And I've reached a point in my life where I've put the scale away and I have feel goals. I want to be able to run up and down the stairs 3 times because I forgot something. In my postmenopausal fog, I still want to run up and down the stairs 3 times and not feel winded. I want to be able to get on the floor and play with my grandkids. I want to be able to explore beautiful places and not have to worry about the fact that I'm unstable or I can't make it that far or whatever it may be. And to me, that's really what healthy is. It's being able to do the things I want to do more than it is being able to fit in a certain size pair of jeans, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's what matters. It's more like opening doors for yourself, paving the path to allow you to do whatever it is that you want to do. I like those examples you gave for, being able to run up and down the stairs and travel. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's being able to meet. I guess you can say your feel goals are like the goals that lead you to meet your goals outside of fitness goals. Not to say goals too many times, but
yeah.
Going with that.
Yeah. Oh, so many of us just measure everything based on, I want to fit in the jeans that I wore at this time, I don't know, when I graduated from high school, or I want to be able to slip on my wedding dress, or I want to see a certain number on the scale. And those things can be reassuring and can be positive experiences, but they can also hold us back because we are not who we were 20 years ago. And I mentioned that several times in my book. If you're striving for a goal, if you're like me and you're 57 years old and you're trying to meet the same fitness, physical, emotional, and spiritual goals that you did when you were 20, you're not being fair to yourself. You're not allowing for the growth and the experiences you've had, but you've also not allowed for the fact that we age, right? So, yeah, I think we just need to learn to love who we are, where our feet are, and where we are in life.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the spirituality that we were talking about before, accepting yourself for who you are and where you're meant to be. So all of this being said, I think it's a good point to us to transition into the writing process of this book itself. And to all of our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about finding your own feel goals or, coming to terms with your own positivity and being okay with everything and more than okay and thriving off of that, Reflections of Joy is an excellent way to go about doing that. So Kim, I'm wondering really quick, do you have any specific tips, maybe a hint or a teaser for something that we might be looking forward to learning in the book in terms of what we can be looking forward to?
Reflections of Joy was, when I first thought of it, it was called Mirror Mirror. And I just really wanted people to look in the mirror and love who they saw. But I realized that that's so much more than just exercise and food, right? And as I started writing the book and as I was living it, as I was coming from a low place and rebuilding my life, I realized that it really does have to do with not just movement and food, but also faith and habits and your social life and just believing in yourself, letting go of all of those. So anyone who reads Reflections of Joy, hopefully what they leave with is a friendly hug and a cheer from me to you that you can do anything you want to do. And if you listen to your body at the same time, it can be sustainable and it can be so good. So yeah, that's what I want Reflections to be, is just the affirmation that a good life is possible, no matter who you are.
I like that. Yeah. So again, listeners, if you're feeling about that same way, you want to be able to feel good about yourself and accomplish all of these things, just to continue your life in the way you want to live it, check out this book. It's going to offer you amazing tips. But again, that being said, I do want to talk a little bit about the writing process, because we are all people listening today, but we're also authors and aspiring authors or accomplished authors. And regardless of where you stand on that trajectory, we're always looking for some new tips and tricks. So, being that you had to take your journal entries and turn it into a book, what was that process like? It must have been a big leap going from, personal writing to making it public to the audience. So please let us know a little bit about the process.
I think it's very important to be organized. If you're going from non-public words or private words to public words, there's so many of them, especially if people are journalers like I am. I write every morning for 30 to 60 minutes, and there's a lot of stuff in there. I would recommend everyone organize themselves before they just sit down. And I think that people, writers especially, we have this image that one day inspiration comes and we sit down at our typewriter, laptop, whatever it was, however old we are, and we just start writing from the first word to the last word. And that's just not how it works. For me, I went through my journal entries and I wrote a very complete outline. I knew the highlights that I wanted. The chapter, my book covers 7 different topics. It's not one topic from start to finish and all the things that fix that. It covers faith and my belief in writing and food and exercise and community and letting go of whatever someone's laid upon you in the past. So I created an incredible outline, and each one had a piece. And I knew that I wanted to include scripture, as you mentioned before. And I also wanted to include stories that weren't my own. And so I had to develop those. But I feel like every new author that I work with now as a writing coach, I try to help them build an outline so that when they're stuck, when they don't know what to write next, or when they're not inspired to write something particular, they have a place to go to.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that with us. And you mentioned writing coaching a little bit. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that? I think that's really interesting because we could all benefit from that.
I had an incredible coach throughout my writing experience, not as a journaler, but once I decided, I joined a hybrid publishing company, and there was a cohort. And so 40 of us all started writing our books at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And we were able to bounce ideas off of one another. It's very affirming to throw an idea out there and have someone else chew it up and spit it back at you and offer you perspectives that you might not have thought of. And I would encourage anyone who decides that they want to be a writer to surround themselves with other people who will be honest and fair and diligent in helping you produce the best work that you possibly can.
I really do love that setup. I've heard a couple of other authors mention they work in writing groups, or, they even send their manuscripts to a beta reader or to somebody else to look at it. But 40 people in a group going over it together, that's a whole lot of eyes on your manuscript,
Yes.
a whole lot of perspective. That must have given you a lot of insights.
Yes.
So, yeah. Was there a particular thing you learned about your writing style during all this process?
I don't know if I learned one specific thing, but what I did learn is that my dreams when I started were too big. I needed to bring it in so that it could have impact. We as writers can't write to everyone. There's no possible way that the person you're trying to write to encompasses everyone on the planet, right? Because you're never going to cover that. And so what I learned through working with beta readers and this cohort and the friends that I've made is that I needed to be specific in who I was trying to reach. And my specific is a woman between 40 and 70 who's in her second act of life, who looks in the mirror and doesn't love what she sees. It doesn't mean that it excludes you, who's younger and maybe yet not struggling with those things. Maybe you catch it and you learn something that you can apply later in life, right? But for me to write a good book, I needed to focus on one woman, and that one woman was probably me.
Understood. I really do like that. And I think that's something we can all take into our own writing practice and give it a try. And, I think it's important for us to be honest with ourselves when we're writing, just like you mentioned too. So all of this being said, I'm wondering, you wrote this book. What else might be on the horizon for you? I mean, you seem like somebody who's always going to be pushing forward, thinking it's something interesting to continue. What can we look forward to?
I was at an amazing retreat a couple weeks ago and visiting with a younger woman and talking about not only my book, but my life as it is today, where I'm a grandmother and I have daughter-in-laws and things. And she came back and she said, well, if I could say anything I wanted to my mother-in-law, this is what I would say. And it just really made me stop and think about the experiences I've had and the wisdom that I might have that may not be either freely given without strings or freely received without expectations, right? So my next book is maybe a prequel to Reflections of Joy, and I'd like to today, in its working title, call it What I Wish I'd Known, and a way for me to gather other women my age who have lived life and lived experiences and write a book that would encourage those of you who have not yet crossed our paths, without it feeling like your mother coming down on you or your mother being disappointed or whatever it is. So, yeah, that's what's in the works right now.
That's really exciting. And I always love when an author tells me they went to a retreat and they were inspired by a certain event. And it's amazing to see people collaborate and bounce ideas off each other just like that. So that sounds like an incredible book. Have you begun, or is it kind of just brewing a little bit, or in the journal entry stage, for example?
It's completely outlined, and I'm a little ways in, not very far.
Well, hey, everyone's got a process, and whatever the path takes you, we can stay up to date and stay in tuned. And so I'm wondering, where can we best connect with you if we want to not only learn more about this upcoming book, but also Reflections of Joy?
I am most active on Instagram or Facebook. It's just easiest to drop my random thoughts and in the moment pleasures there. And that's at Kim Mosiman, both of them. And I also have a website where I blog occasionally and I feature new authors. So I have a guest blog there called My Friend Writes. And every week I feature a new author, someone who is either in the process and close to launching or has just released their book. And they offer me a blog post and a way to connect with them. So it's hard to be a new author. It's hard to get out in the world where there are a lot of big names and we're still small fish. And so I've tried to give that to people. So Kim Mosiman Wellness is my website where you'd find that guest blog. But otherwise, I work in my position as a coach at Writer to Writer, where we teach people how to launch and how to write. And yeah, I'm just kind of stuck in this world of words right now.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And everybody, if you're interested in connecting and finding out more about Kim, we're going to put those links in that description box as well. So you can go ahead and click on over and learn a little bit more about Kim and all of her upcoming exciting news with the books and everything between. Kim, I'm wondering, do you happen to have any last bits of advice you might want to offer our audience today?
I would say just write. Just don't be afraid. We feel like we're stuck sometimes. Let the words flow and don't set any expectations for what they are. Sometimes journaling is the best thing for writer's block. And I think when we surround ourselves with good people, we can take bad words and turn them into good words. So that would be my wisdom that I could offer right now.
Well, I think both of the two that resonate most with me, you said, is taking bad words and turning it into good words. That's all about the resilience that you really embody, bouncing back, learning from everything you go through. And not only that, but sharing what you've learned with others. That's incredible. And also, of course, journaling being your method for getting out of writer's block. That's incredible. A lot of people do journal, a lot of people dabble at it, but yeah, it's an amazing thing. If you don't know what to write, pick up a pen and just start jotting down ideas, journal about it. Or looking back at your past journal entries also can trigger some ideas. I'm sure that's kind of what you did during the process. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yep. Definitely. All right, well, cool. I think those are some amazing tips for everyone to look back at and try on their own. And again, everybody, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about all of Kim's ideas, check out Reflections of Joy. It's available. We're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast. So go ahead and click on over. Without any further ado, that we come to the end of our time together. Kim, I'm really struck by all these powerful insights that you shared with us. There's so many of us out there that have been taught transformation requires a lot of work, that we need to battle our bodies. But your story and your book really just show us that what you need to do is choose to be joyful, choose to be resilient, and be comfortable in your own body. So you've really taught us about all that. Thank you so much for all these insights.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an incredible conversation. And to our listeners, if you want to learn more again, check out the description box for those links. And remember, as Kim has shown us, your story isn't over when you face those setbacks. Sometimes it's where you need to be. And all you have to do is start journaling about it, write a book about it, and share it with others. So until next time, this is Danielle Hutchinson from Authors on Mission, where we believe that the best stories aren't just written, they're lived. Check out our next episodes and keep writing, keep leading, keep inspiring. Thank you for joining us.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.